Finding water is wrong, Margaret.
We deserve freedom, not control.
It was a scorching July afternoon in Willow Creek, Georgia, the kind of heat that made the air feel like a heavy blanket pressing down on everything. The thermometer hit 102 degrees Fahrenheit, and the asphalt on Maple Drive shimmered like a mirage. That morning, I, Daniel Harper, a 52-year-old retired firefighter, hauled 2 coolers filled with ice-cold water bottles to the edge of my lawn, right under the sprawling oak tree that marked the entrance to our community park. No signs, no fuss, just water for anyone who needed it. I wasn't looking for praise. I did it because last week, Mrs. Clara Thompson, the 79-year-old widow next door, had fainted in her garden from dehydration. And because my old man, back in Macon, used to say, water in a heat wave is worth more than gold. That evening, as the sun dipped low, I found a crisp envelope taped to my front door at 214 Maple Drive. I assumed it was another flyer for gutter cleaning or pest control. It wasn't. Inside was a violation notice from the Willow Creek Homeowners Association, HOA, signed by Margaret Voss, the board president. Unauthorized distribution of consumables in a common area. Fine, $50. Due within 10 days. I stood there, stunned, the paper trembling in my hand as cicadas droned in the distance. $50 for handing out water? I scanned the quiet street, half expecting to see Margaret herself lurking behind a hydrangea bush. Nothing. Just the hum of a lawnmower and the faint clink of a neighbor's wind chime. Confusion turned to frustration. Had someone complained? Was it the coolers? The ice? I walked across the street to Clara's house, a jug of water in hand, and knocked softly. She answered, her silver hair pinned back, her smile warm but tired. Daniel, that water was a godsend today, she said. I meant to thank you. I asked if she'd heard anything about the fine. Her brow furrowed. Who'd complain about water? That Voss woman drove by earlier, didn't even look at me. That was all I needed to hear. Back home, I sat at my kitchen table, the notice glaring at me under the fluorescent light while my golden retriever, Rusty, snoozed at my feet. I'd left the fire department 5 years ago, trading sirens for suburbia, but I never imagined I'd be targeted in my own neighborhood for something as simple as kindness. I called the HOA's number. Voicemail. This is Daniel Harper from 214 Maple Drive. I got a fine for handing out water. I'd like to know what rule I broke. Call me back. No one did. I dug out the HOA handbook, a 90-page tome of legalese, and found the rule they cited. No resident shall distribute food or beverages in common areas without board approval. Vague, but there it was. No sale, no signs, just free water on a blistering day. Apparently, that was a crime in Willow Creek. That night, I barely slept, not because of the fine, but because I saw something deeper in that notice: not safety, not order, but control. The next morning, I attended the HOA meeting at the community center, a sterile building that smelled of bleach and burnt coffee. I hadn't been to one in months, but I put on a polo shirt, took a seat near the front, and watched Margaret Voss run the show like a drill sergeant. She wore a navy blazer with the HOA logo stitched in gold, her badge of authority. When the floor opened for questions, I stood. I got a $50 fine for handing out water. I didn't sell anything or cause a scene. What's the basis for this? Margaret's eyes narrowed. Section 14B prohibits unapproved consumable distribution. I pressed. So, if I give a neighbor a cookie or a kid sells lemonade, that's a violation too? Her jaw tightened. This isn't about cookies, Mr. Harper. It's about maintaining standards. Standards? I thought. Or power. She dismissed my question, suggesting I file a dispute form to be reviewed by the same board that fined me. A few neighbors shifted in their seats, uncomfortable. I pushed further. Fining people for kindness isn't standards. It's overreach. Margaret's voice turned icy. Further disruption could lead to additional citations, Mr. Harper. I sat down, my pulse pounding. As the meeting ended, a woman named Ellen Carter, who lived on Birch Lane, leaned over. They fined me for handing out juice at the kids' soccer game last fall. Called it unsanctioned hospitality. You're not alone. That was the spark. This wasn't just about me. 2 days later, I caught Margaret and her sidekick, Harold Klein, the HOA's compliance coordinator, standing across the street, eyeing my coolers like they were contraband. Harold clutched his clipboard, scribbling furiously. I stepped onto my porch with a coffee mug and waved. "Morning, folks. Need a water?" Silence. Harold scribbled harder. They left, but soon after, another notice arrived. Visual obstruction of neighborhood aesthetics due to unapproved objects. My coolers and a small wooden bench I'd built were now unsightly. The bench was oak, sanded and stained by hand. In Margaret's world, it was a threat. I sat on that bench for an hour, watching kids bike past and neighbors wave. The neighborhood looked idyllic, but there was a tension, like a storm brewing under clear skies. That night, I walked past Margaret's pristine colonial on Cedar Court, her HOA sign gleaming in the moonlight. Her car was parked on the street after 9 p.m., a violation of her own rules. I snapped a photo, not out of spite, but fairness. If she could weaponize the handbook, so could I. The next morning, I taped the photo to her door with a note. "Good people bend rules for good reasons." Like you did. By noon, it was gone. Harold showed up at my door that afternoon, nervous. "Mrs. Voss says leaving notes on doors is discouraged." I raised an eyebrow. "Is it illegal?" He stammered. "Not exactly." I nodded. "Then I'll keep that in mind." He warned me about a possible hearing for my 2 citations. I asked, "Harold, ever give someone water on a hot day?" He adjusted his glasses and left without answering. That evening, Ellen stopped by with lemonade. We sat on my bench as her son, Timmy, played in the yard. "Margaret's out of control," she said. "She fined my neighbor for a birdhouse." "A birdhouse?" I muttered. "She thinks she owns this place." Ellen nodded. "She moved here from Florida 3 years ago, ran for the board right away. Her husband left her last year. Some say she's been like this ever since." It clicked. Margaret's control wasn't about rules, it was about fear. The next morning, my bench was gone. No warning, no note, just an empty patch of grass. An email from the HOA followed. Non-compliant structure removed per bylaw 15C for visual uniformity. I printed it, adding it to a folder labeled HOA Overreach. It already held my water fine, the aesthetic violation, and Margaret's parking photo. I visited Mr. Raymond Polk, a retired lawyer who'd served on the board before Margaret's reign. Over iced tea, he chuckled. "She's turned the handbook into a club. But there's a way to fight back Article 29. He showed me the clause. A vote of no confidence could be triggered with 20% of homeowners' signatures and a majority quorum. My heart raced. This was our chance. I started small, walking Rusty and chatting with neighbors. Stories poured out. Fines for garden gnomes, non-approved mailbox paint, even a warning for a veteran's flag. Ellen designed a flyer. Does the HOA represent you? Share your story. Contact Daniel Harper at 214 Maple Drive or willowcreekvoice@gmail.com. We slipped 40 flyers into mailboxes. Within days, I had 15 emails, each with a tale of petty fines or intimidation. I compiled them into a PDF, Willow Creek HOA, a pattern of control. Margaret doubled down. A neighbor got fined for a porch light. A young couple was cited for a moving box left out overnight. When a 12-year-old's lemonade stand was shut down for unlicensed vending, I'd had enough. I emailed my growing list of supporters. Meeting at my garage, Saturday, 6 p.m. Bring your stories. Bring your fight. That rainy Saturday, 35 neighbors packed my garage. Ellen with cookies, Raymond with legal notes, and Mrs. Clara with a photo of her fined rose trellis. We planned, signed petitions, and felt the community wake up. The HOA struck back. Margaret filed a county code enforcement complaint, claiming my garage meetings were unlicensed assemblies. The inspectors found nothing, but the complaint was signed by Margaret. My email was flooded with spam, a clear attempt to drown out real messages. Then they cut my porch's power, citing non-compliant fixtures. I filmed it all, adding it to my folder. Neighbors rallied. A nurse named Sarah left a $20 note for flyers. A veteran, Mike, joined me door to door. Clara called, voice shaking, about a fine for her rose trellis. "I paid it," she said, "but I shouldn't have." She signed a petition. We hit 68 signatures, needing 75. A week later, a certified letter summoned me to a disciplinary hearing for inciting disharmony. I called Ellen, who connected me with Lisa and Gwen, a paralegal neighbor. "They're bluffing," Lisa said. "Article 12 doesn't apply unless you're causing harm. Show up with everything documents, photos, witnesses. The night before, I spread my evidence across the kitchen table. Fines, photos, emails, Clara's trellis notice. At dawn, 40 neighbors gathered at my garage. Ellen, Raymond, Clara, Mike, Lisa, and even Sarah with her toddler. "You're not going alone," Ellen said, handing me coffee. At the hearing, Margaret sat at the head of the community center table, flanked by board members Carl Reed, Susan Holt, and a new face. She accused me of undermining authority. Lisa countered, citing Article 29's recall rights. I presented my evidence: the water fine, bench removal, spam attack, and Clara's tearful story about her trellis. Lisa laid down our petition with 82 signatures. Margaret paled. "This is inappropriate," she stammered. Lisa smiled. "No, it's democracy." The hearing ended with Margaret storming out. The next day, another violation notice appeared: unapproved political organizing. I added it to my folder, now bulging. We aimed for 120 signatures to ensure an undeniable mandate. Ellen built an online form, and teens distributed flyers. We hit 109 signatures. Margaret called an unannounced meeting, trying to freeze voting with an emergency clause. Carl leaked it to Lisa. "It's unenforceable," she said. We scheduled a public vote at the town hall, printing signs: "Vote for our voice, and kindness isn't a crime." Clara's trellis inspired a viral banner, torn down by the HOA but replaced by dusk. 3 days before the vote, Clara called, sobbing. "They're threatening to ban me from the pool for supporting you." I contacted the county HOA oversight office. Supervisor Karen Wells said, "This isn't the first complaint about your HOA. File a grievance. I'll fast-track it." We did. Support poured in: local churches, a fire station, even a nearby HOA. The morning of the vote, my yard was filled with signs: "Thank you, Daniel and Clara's trellis lives." Clara's note read, "You reminded us we're not alone." At 2 p.m., the town hall parking lot overflowed. By 3 p.m., 197 residents voted. Lisa tallied the ballots, 184 to 9, to recall the board. Margaret stood at the lot's edge, silent, then left. The HOA tried to void the vote, citing irregularities, but Karen dismissed their injunction. That night, in Ellen's garage, we planned the final election. Lisa proposed a county ethics complaint for HOA abuse. Sarah launched a website archiving every fine. We held a library meeting, drawing 90 residents and a reporter whose article, "HOA or Tyranny," went viral. The final vote was at the high school gym. Food trucks, kids, and 241 voters created a festival atmosphere. I didn't run. Lisa became secretary, Sarah treasurer, Mike vice president, and Clara president. She said, "I want peace, not power." By 8 p.m., they were elected unanimously. Clara avoided all petty fines and promised transparency. The crowd cheered, not loudly, but with relief. 6 months later, Willow Creek feels alive. Benches dot lawns, Clara's trellis blooms, and my cooler stays stocked with a "Take one, leave one" sign. Lisa's rules ensure open proposals. Sarah tracks every dollar online. Mike's walks spark real talks. Clara leads with grace, starting meetings with, "We serve, not control." One evening, Margaret appeared at my driveway. No blazer, just a sweater. "I was wrong," she said, eyes down. "I thought rules kept things safe after my divorce. I hurt people." She offered a $50 check for the water fine. I waved it off. "Come to a meeting, Margaret. Just listen." She nodded and left, not broken, but maybe healing. Kids sell lemonade now. Gardens flourish. Potlucks fill the park. Clara's turning the clubhouse into a library and cooling center. My dad's words echo: "You're a neighbor when you show up." That's what the water was: defiance, hope, community. What do you think? Have you faced petty power or injustice in your life? Should kindness ever be punished? Share your thoughts below. Let's hear your stand.